Hello, everybody. Today's guest is Emily Greenberg, co-founder and chief parenting officer at Joy Parenting Club and mother of two. This was a really fun conversation. First of all, she turns the tables on me and asks me a lot of the questions that I'm usually asking guests, so that's fun. And we get into some good topics here. We talk about the current state of the parenting tech space, how many times parents Google things in their first year of parenting, and how to make time for your family and not be on your phone so much, and much more. Thank you for listening. I'm Anthony Franzese, the host of the Successful Working Parents podcast, where we learn from working parents how they're able to balance it all and still thrive. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend. Subscribe if you're not already. Anyway, on to the show. Welcome back to the Successful Working Parents podcast, the podcast where we talk to successful working parents. The title is still pending. My guest today, she is the co-founder and chief parenting officer of Joy Parenting Club, mother of two. Ladies and gentlemen, Emily Greenberg. Emily, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much. What a cool intro.
Yeah, well, we like to roll out the red carpet for our guests, so we're excited to have you. So my first question is, what is a chief parenting officer?
Great question. The chief parenting officer at Joy, aka me, really builds all of our, programs, platforms that anything parents interface with is part of my scope. I don't know that chief parenting officer is like a title that exists in any other job ever, or any other industry or any other company. But it is one that makes sense here in that everything that we do is for parents, everything we make is for parents. And it was important just to have like someone focused on what it means to be a parent and have the user in mind. And so we just came up with this kind of fun title.
I mean, I feel like it's a life goal to be like a chief something officer, but like have it be like a more creative and fun word instead of like, marketing or executive. So I think I think that's how you made it in life, when you have a cool chief title.
It's not really transferable to much else, but
that's true. That's
okay. It is a claim to fame that there is chief somewhere in the title. So that's cool.
But yeah, it might be hard to find another chief parenting officer job after this one.
This is it. So one and
only. So what is Joy Parenting Club?
Yeah, so Joy Parenting Club is a digital parenting subscription. It is available for families as soon as they give birth to their infant, their newborn. And so many of our parents are very new parents. We offer content and services for parents from birth of their child right now through age 5. So in those first 5 years of like overwhelm and information overload and all of the things. And certainly there's no lack of platforms out there for families and no lack of platforms that provide content. I think what Joy does and what we really try to hold on to as like our main ethos is the word personalization or personal. And so we really feel like every parent's journey is different. And while there's, again, no lack of content out there for babies, there's zero content out there about your baby. So what Joy does is it walks parents through step by step from the moment, again, that they join Joy or the moment that they give birth up through age 5. And it allows parents to ask questions to real live human experts and parent coaches 24 hours a day. So it takes away the like scary Googling in the middle of the night. It takes away the like, oh, I don't know if this is right or this is right, because these are both, what I read online. And so that we have an app that puts it all together for you, 24/7 chat with lactation consultants, certified feeding specialists, sleep consultants, behavioral therapists, parent coaches, folks that are certified in perinatal mental health. We have a social worker on there, former teachers. So it really becomes your team of experts and your team or your digital village. And then we have our own set of content. So we have about 1,000 or so of our own unique articles that really are specific to the pain points that parents face. One of my favorites is, why is my instinct to yell at my husband? I don't know if you, Anthony, had that experience.
Yeah. Gotta give my wife that article.
Totally. And videos and just sort of like very much stage-based guides through every stage of the journey. And then we also have a shop. So parenting can be very expensive. And so we want to make it feel as affordable as possible. So we have a shop that offers 20% off of baby essentials, products for postpartum, products for, toddlers, parents, the home, and so forth. And so we'll continue to build out this suite of tools, but really it's a digital subscription for families that holds your hand in a really personal and empathetic way.
I mean, I can't tell you how much stuff I Googled I wasn't even the one that was pregnant, and I was Googling all kinds of stuff during pregnancy, and obviously, I have a 16-month-old now, so still Googling stuff now.
It's wild. I mean, there's a stat that parents Google about 2,000 times in their first year of parenting, which is certainly at least true in my.
I think I broke that one, but yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like anything, and it's just you're handed a blob. You leave the hospital, or even if you have a young toddler or whatever, there's no manual, there's no guide, and like you can be the smartest person in the world, and like your kid is up all night screaming, and you're terrified. So it's nice to have the peace of mind.
They really just give you a baby. That was to me like the most like stark moment when I realized like, oh, you have to watch one video about not shaking it, which I think is great, definitely important. But there should be other lessons and trainings, and then you just get to leave with the baby. Yeah, you get to leave with the baby after. Yeah, so
and there's courses and things that like optionally you can do, but like until you have the thing, it's pretty hard to prepare yourself. Like obviously you can learn about like first aid, CPR, and stuff like that, but like it's really hard, and it's really hard to understand how you'll feel as a parent. We actually have a ton of resources for dads and new dads. We even have like a couple articles on like dad hormones and like what happens to dads and how they can be either the primary parent or a supportive partner. And it's really just like hard to know how you're going to feel. It was, at least for me personally, just a very new and pretty like shocking experience, at least with my first. And so, yeah, Joy is really there to provide parents, support.
What are your thoughts on dad strength? Is that a real thing?
On dad what?
Dad strength.
Dad strength?
Yeah. Like once you become a dad, you become stronger.
Oh, like stronger physically.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think like moms can probably lift cars if like there was something horrible going on, you needed to do that. But yeah, of course, totally. I mean, at least I like to think like I can carry 20 pounds of groceries on one arm, my 36-pound 3-year-old on the other arm, and then like her backpack and, probably some water bottle that's exploding in my hand. So yeah.
So how old are your kids?
My son is 6. He just started kindergarten, and my daughter is 3.5. And so we're probably, we're like, if you have 16-month-old, we're like a couple years ahead, but I remember those days. It's so much fun.
What age is more fun, 6 or 3?
Oh, 6. Yeah. 3 is amazing because they're just so like funny and chatty and say the most ridiculous stuff. Like you'll start to get into it now with like is your daughter or your son?
My daughter.
Your daughter. So she'll start to like blab and like say funny things. The 3.5-year-old is great for that. But the 6-year-old, like we watched Little Rascals the other day, that movie from like when we were kids. Yeah,
I remember that.
And he loved it. Like he's starting to become like a human in the way that he like thinks and behaves. And so definitely we're getting into like a little bit of like a groove as far as like behavior and all of that loveliness.
Plus no more diapers.
Oh yeah, that is a unlock. Big time.
Is there any data on like the biggest questions that Joy gets?
Oh yeah. So because so many of our families come directly as newborn families, 93%, let's say, this is like a ballpark, but pretty accurate ballpark, 93 or so, 95% of questions are about feeding and sleep.
Interesting.
It's like survival. Like how can I feed this thing and get it like through the night? And how can I personally like survive and get through the night myself? So that is like a huge, that's why we have on staff feeding and sleep experts. So we have 24/7 parent coaches all night, all day. And then we have experts on all day. So like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And so and they're very, very highly utilized. So questions about like latch and milk production, and like for a little bit older baby, like introducing solid foods, and really anything feeding, weaning from the bottle, pacifiers, everything about like gassiness, reflux, all that like lovely newborn stuff. And then sleep, why will my baby, I know this, we had this, why will my baby only sleep when they're being held? And then like the minute you put them down, they like wake up. Cat naps versus like day night confusion, establishing a routine. So there's like so much in the way of just like getting the physical needs met of the baby.
Yeah.
And then a lot around like feelings, like parent feelings, adjustment. I feel lonely. I feel isolated. We're not like a mental health service, so to speak, right? So, like, if parents are in crisis, we definitely redirect them to get support elsewhere. Or if there's something like medical in nature, right? So, like, if they're talking about like a fever or like horrible rashes or something, we'll tell them to like call their pediatrician, but we're there for most other stuff. And so, like, those are the main categories in newbornhood. I would say other things are around transitional moments. So, like, if you have a 16-month-old, I'm trying to think through like transitional moments you might be going through, whether it's like starting school or like moving or new babies, right? So, like, siblinghood is a big topic for us, or transitioning out of a crib and into a bed, or like a lot of those things where there's like a change. Parents ask us for help and support, and those things like keep happening. They just like obviously are different here and there
Yeah. Yeah.
throughout the journey. But yeah, those are, I would say those are like our biggest heavy hitters.
Yeah. I had a lot of feelings with daycare. Well, I had a lot of feelings in general, but I had a lot of feelings with the daycare drop off. She was like 6 months when she started. And that, I think to me, that was like one of the harder things
Yeah.
emotionally.
Yeah.
And then, so since we started daycare, we moved, so we did a new daycare, and then she recently moved into like a new like older kid room. So it's been like three times where it's like pretty tough
Change.
emotions. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's like at least a lot of the joy parents, and I know I felt returning to work can bring a lot of like guilty feelings of like, oh, I'm like leaving my baby in the care of somebody else. Like, are they happy? Are they safe? Are they taken care of? There's so many other babies. Is everything okay? And then, of course, like there's the separation anxiety on the behalf of the child. Obviously, I'm sure 16 months, there's like some feelings that drop off and some tears can definitely happen.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but it's amazing. It's a
Yeah.
godsend.
No, for sure, and I think it's been really good for her overall. So
Yeah.
I do approve. Um, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about what it's like to be a parent, for the first time?
Huh, that's a really good question. I would love to hear your answers as well. The biggest misconceptions, I think people don't fully, I don't know, this is a terrible answer, but like people know you're going to be tired and people know it's going to be hard, right? Like I think there's like maybe 5 or 10 years ago, everyone's like, oh, newborn parents, it's like, it's so beautiful. It's so like cozy. It's so wonderful. And like, sure, there's some of that, but I think like enough social media and enough like realness has kind of been shown on to like there's enough products that solve problems that like it no longer feels like a really rosy, fabulous, blissful journey. Like I think people are pretty clear that it's going to be hard.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think anyone goes into parenting being like, this is going to be like a super easy ride.
Sure.
So I don't think there's the misconception that it's all going to be easy. I think that it's just, it's endless. It's like endless work and endless physical. It takes a physical toll. And so I don't know that that's a misconception, but I guess it's like something I necessarily wasn't prepared for. Like I told a friend the other day, like when I was thinking back on maternity leave or parental leave, that it was both boring and exhausting at the
Hmm.
same time. Like
Yeah.
you're bored because you're like home alone with an infant who like
Yeah.
you're constantly like tending to their needs, but it's exhausting. And so
Hmm.
like I think that would be what I didn't expect, at least, that it is just so physically draining for a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, that is what I was thinking along those lines too. Like it was that, what do you call it? Paternity leave
Yeah.
is not like a vacation,
No.
right? I think and I had sort of like romanticized the idea of like being a stay-at-home dad, or like being, and it's just like it is hard, yeah. And it's not really, you're not going to like write your next novel in the downtime, right? I think that's
No.
a
No, no.
misconception that people
And
have.
even now, like Monday comes and I'm like thrilled that I'm going
Yeah.
to work and thrilled that they're at school happy and safe and whatever. And like, sure, I think about them during the day, but like, I'm so happy to be a human being adult, like with separate thoughts other than my kids for, much of the day.
The other day, my mom actually said to me, I can't believe you and your wife never just keep your daughter home from daycare when you're both working from home. I'm like, we got stuff to do.
What? No, no, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, mom,
absolutely.
if you're listening to this, wrong question.
Mom, I
Uh,
agree. Anthony's mom. I totally agree with him.
yeah, sorry, mom. And then I think the other thing is like it's it's like, to your point, boring, but also it's like it's like the wrong kind of hard, right? It is hard, but it's not like you're like solving a puzzle, or like
Oh,
it's not like the intellectually stimulating kind of hard. So it's like that, even beyond the newborn phase. Like, my wife went away for a couple of days, and I was like, yeah, it was like bored and it was hard. It's really the best way to describe it.
exactly.
Yeah,
And I think to your point, you're not solving, like, you're not using your brain in the way that you may be used to in like your work life or whatever. So it almost, I think actually, this is just like a reflection of mine, like causes you to then be like, okay, well, like, what should I be worrying about? Like, what is this okay? Like, so you don't have like something to like physically solve necessarily. So you start like perseverating on like what could be wrong or what should I be doing? And I think that, just coming back to joy, that's sort of like where often parents come to us from. Like, is this moment of like, you know, they're sort of like paralyzed.
yeah. Well, I think that's why it's nice to have these resources available. It's funny. I feel like I'm so like, you also were mentioning people saying like how hard it was, like that narrative's kind of changing. I actually, for a while, I felt like it was like too much in the wrong direction, where now it's like everyone's like, it's going to be so hard. Like, I feel
Right.
like people were really making me feel like it was going to be super hard. And then I felt like it was giving it like a bad rap, because obviously it's great. But now that I'm talking to you, I'm like, I feel like I'm on that side of like how hard I'm talking
No,
about how hard it is.
and right. And I'm not trying to like belabor like how this is like such a slog and like, it's challenging, but there's
Yeah.
like joyful, wonderful moments. Like, and I think actually what a lot of parenting platforms out there do wrong is that they sort of use that as their selling point, right?
Right.
Like parenting's really hard and like we're going to like help you get through this hard thing, and like it almost just like re-associates people to like thinking of the hard thing. Like,
Yeah.
and that's, obviously it's validating, and because that is true, but yeah, I think that I totally agree with you. I think the narratives has really shifted around like going from this like blissful moment and like expecting rainbows and butterflies to like expecting the hardest thing and the most enduring challenge, which again it is, but it is nice to find a balance there. So
What are your thoughts on the parenting tech space as a whole?
yeah, I think there's a lot of point solutions, which is great, right? Like if you have like a thing you need solved and you can use a platform to solve it and then your need is met and that's it, it's fine. So I think there's like a lot of things that solve like slices of the issue or of like the entire sort of like parenting life of a family. And I think that's great. So like, I'm thinking of platforms like, the Dr. Becky's, they're fabulous because they solve behavioral issues or they help you sort of navigate who you are as a parent. So that's great. There's the, Huckleberries where they solve
Mm.
sleep issues.
Yeah.
There's
Shout out to
the
Huckleberry. That was a big help for me.
Huckleberry Rocks, right?
Yeah.
Like that's their thing. There's like the Maples, which I know you spoke with Michael Perry. Great.
Yeah.
Like around household management and mental load. So I think, everyone has a lane. And I think that can feel overwhelming to a parent because like they think they need to cobble together all of these like helpful but somewhat fragmented pieces of technology to solve their problem. And like the last thing parent needs is more homework to do. And so
Yeah.
there's something to be said for like doing one thing really well. And so I totally get that. But I think something that I'm noticing in parenting tech in general is that there's like, it seems as though you need to really like collect all of these mini point solutions to solve like a holistic problem.
Yeah.
How do you see it?
I think I mean, there are a lot of point solutions. I think you're starting to see like a little bit of like saturation,
Yeah.
in the space. I mean, I
Yeah.
come from like the digital health space, which had the same challenge. And then, like I was worked at Headspace for a while. And so you saw a ton of meditation apps coming onto the scene. And so it's tricky because the technology does really help lives and change lives for the better. But, you also get, you get people entering that space for capitalism reasons and not like
Sure.
for altruistic reasons, but which is okay too. But I think so. I think there's a lot in the space, and I think that's sometimes hard to cut through the noise. But I think on the whole, it's I'm glad that Headspace exists. Right? I'm glad that Joy Parenting Club exists
Totally.
as opposed to not. And so I think that we kind of have to take the good with the bad on it.
Of course. Yeah, definitely.
So I want to talk a little bit more about your own experiences. You're a chief parenting officer of a company. You've had a career in the tech world and in the education world. You have
Yeah.
two kids yourself. So when it comes to being a busy working parent, like what are your experiences with time management and juggling everything? Like what have you found to be really helpful tools, or whether it's
Yeah.
mental or tactical?
Yeah. Um, a lot of things. I think I'm sure whoever you ask this question to says support of others as like a main resource. So like my husband works from home and it's very helpful to have him around. I often feel like I think something I've learned that has helped me is that like I'll rely on him to do things, or I'll say like, if you could give them breakfast or like help me pack their lunches, or you know, whatever, can you go pick up blah 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 from the grocery store. And so like the delegation, obviously, although I still do feel like kind of like the cruise director of my house, where like I'm like the one that's marionetting everything going on even from beyond. um but I'll come downstairs and I'll have asked him to give the kids breakfast, and they'll be eating something that like I probably wouldn't have given them. But like I can't both ask for support and then
Yeah,
micromanage someone else doing the thing that I asked them to do. And so I think mentally for me, being able to just have it be just okay in some ways, like even though it may not have been what I would have chosen to feed them, they're eating, they're fine, they're healthy. Like he did it and I don't have to do it. And that's really
yeah.
useful. And so I think that that's been like a battle picking exercise for me, and at least in our marriage and in parenting. So that's been
Mm,
good.
that's such a good one. I have the same control freak
Yeah.
challenges sometimes.
Yeah, it's interesting because like this is what I do all day, right? Like I talk about parenting and I talk about motherhood and I talk to experts. And so like there's this like weird twilight zone thing where I'm like living a life as a parent and then talking about parenting, and it's just like a constant like, tornado of this information. And so like it's all I think about. But it's not all everybody thinks about. Like they have other things. Like my husband has a job that has nothing to do with this. So like
Yeah.
but I'm not then like any better of a mom. Like I still sort of like feel, I don't know, like I don't want to have to like educate him on how to parent because he
Hmm.
has his own parenting instincts and he does a wonderful job. And like, who am I to say? And so I think it's just, it's been an interesting learning for me coming into this industry and then both like living it at home and talking about it all day.
Yeah.
Because I'll catch myself doing something that I know like our experts would be like, try to avoid. And it's like, well, like people yell, like people like react, and it's okay. So, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there anything that comes to mind that's like a thing that experts say that you just disagree with?
Oh, that I disagree with? I don't know. We have a real challenge in my house around picky eating. And I am like, I love to cook. I love to eat. I love to try new foods. I love to like eat weird stuff. And like my kids are the most basic of basic of basic. And I try to do everything right. Like I know in my head that I shouldn't be like rewarding them with a treat, or like I shouldn't be like saying, eat your chicken before you can have, a lollipop. Like that's wrong. And I try to avoid it, but it's just so challenging. So that's like our biggest sort of, I think, like area of growth, at least for myself. And I don't know if it's like parenting or it's just like those are just who your kids are. And like that's
Yeah.
it. It's not like something I can just like flip a switch and control. So but yeah, I just like a very interesting, just constant, like, am I doing this right? Even for me, because I feel like I have the information at my fingertips, but it's not always as easy to put into practice. And so
Sure.
yeah, I don't know. It's hard to balance like life and parenting. It's really hard. Like my kids till 4:30, 5 o'clock every day because I have meetings. Like,
Yeah.
and that's just the way it is. And like they're happy, they're fine, they're smart and growing. And it's like you just sort of have to like, I don't know, like feel at peace with doing your best.
I mean, that's a huge topic on this podcast. A lot of my guests talk about just like letting yourself not be like an A plus and everything all the time, and giving yourself some kindness to be that way.
Totally. And then like I think another thing that like is, I don't know if you guys have ever spoken about this, but like when my kids see me on my phone and they are trying to talk to me and I'm going like this, and even if I'm answering an email or a Slack or I'm doing something important, it kills me. Like it really bothers me that they are seeing me model behavior that I know that I'm not going to want them to have
Yeah.
as
Oh yeah.
they grow. And so I really try to like be present around them, but that is really hard, especially when you work from home and like life and work blur in terms of time and space and all of the things. And so I just realize how much of what I say and do is just a direct model for them. Like you probably see it with your daughter. Like I'll say something and in passing, and then 2 days later, my 3-year old is saying it. Like it's like
Yeah.
we are their biggest mirror slash like they don't even realize it's happening. Like this is just how they learn. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, I might as well take these moments if I'm going to be so influential to them, which we know that we are. Like I might as well try to take those moments and model something like curiosity or struggling with a problem in a positive way, or mindfulness and like self-reflection or asking questions or whatever, empathy. And so I do try to like every day try to do something, not like to perform for them, right? But I'll be like, like I had a really hard time today. I don't know, like figuring out whatever, and like just to myself, or and I'll be like, it was really tough and I really wanted to give up, and I try to like do something that will then be the thing that they sort of see and take in, and I do see it working. Like I see my kids growing their like executive functioning skills or their like cognitive skills, and I think it has something to do with that, maybe not totally, but like I don't know, I think it's important to like realize just how much they will copy you. And so
Yeah.
just try to take advantage of modeling that in the best way that you can.
Yeah. I mean, I really gotta be more mindful of my phone usage in front of my daughter. Like
Wild.
you can already see, like she just is very interested in the phone,
Right.
and
And
what
my
it
son,
is.
my son will say, "Mom, get off your phone." And I'm like, "Oh God." Like I hate it's just so
Yeah,
like,
that's tough. Yeah, she can't say that yet, but she
I
might be
know,
thinking
but
it. She
it's
might be
like,
thinking it, but she can't say it yet.
yeah.
But that's a tough one. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, and I can imagine, right? Like he's 6, he's not getting a phone for whatever, hopefully not for a very long time.
Does
But when
he
he
want one yet? Does he like? What does he think of phones? Or he just
No,
thinks
and
it's
we
like,
don't have iPads either. Like I have friends that give their kids iPads, and like that's fine. I mean, my kids watch plenty of television, but
yeah,
I just like some things like they're really young. Like I don't
yeah,
really think that they should be sitting there on the couch looking at an iPad instead of like even the television or like reading a book, playing, drawing. So we try to just,
oh yeah, yeah. I'm trying. I'm definitely trying to do no iPads for as long as possible. I think the TV is already starting to slip in, but I think the iPad thing is it's a
yeah,
slippery slope.
totally, totally. Yeah, I think the TV, I mean, it's fine. Like we definitely have screens as a part of our like routine.
They're here to stay. These
They're
screens.
here to stay.
How do you make time for your family?
Um, it's tough, I guess, just by the nature of being busy, but we try to like be done with the workday at dinner time,
Hmm.
and then have the whole night together and really like do fun stuff. Like we'll have dance parties, we'll have like I'll give them like little challenges, they'll go put on a show. On the weekends we like try to do like the normal stuff together, like we'll cook together, we'll like pick up leaves together, like we try to like do regular life together. And I think that's, I don't know, that's really it. Like we don't I go out certainly with friends, and like I enjoy like my own social life certainly, but
Yeah.
um I don't know, I feel like we have a very strong foundation so that, when we are apart, we still like have that as like a glue.
When you look at your career, do you feel like you've had to make certain sacrifices in your career for your family, or certain sacrifices in your family for your career?
Honestly, not really, which is like probably not the common answer, but I guess I've been lucky enough to work in an industry that is extremely family
Yeah.
forward.
Hmm.
And so it's always been implicit that like I, as a parent, will have to prioritize my family. Like I went to, my kids go to a Jewish day school, and I went to Shabbat this morning and like was there for an hour. I'm like, just the way it is. And like, no one's gonna, if I block my calendar to take my son to a doctor's appointment, that's just the way it is. And so I think I am fortunate to be in that kind of space where that is just a given. I did have a role. I won't say the company, but they did not offer paid maternity leave, and it was a childcare company, which is like
Ooh,
super interesting.
yeah.
And so I had to go back to work much sooner with my daughter than I had intended to, or that I would have liked to, just obviously for financial reasons. And there are people who have to go back right away, like week two, three, four, five, six, like really, really soon, like when your body's not even healed. And so it was luckily I took unpaid leave for a little bit of time, but I think that's the most sort of like forward example. But yeah, I do feel fortunate to feel like I'm supported in being able to like put family very much, first and or sort of like aligned with the work that I'm doing.
Yeah, love that. Any
How about you?
tips?
Do you feel like you've had to sacrifice a lot?
I think probably like a little bit on the career side. Like I think especially like in a sales type of role, like there's always more work to be doing. There's more traveling I could be doing, and so I probably have chosen to not crush it as much as I could
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah.
But I also have been, it's only been 16 months, but I've been at more family friendly places. So
Yeah.
definitely, I think it helps to like just the people that you work with have kids and like your boss has a kid. Like I think that
Totally.
all that stuff makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. I agree. And also the remoteness. Like I loved being in an office when I was in my early, mid, late 20s. Like I thought it was like so fun to learn from people. Like the early career, I think was like really I loved sort of getting out of the house and being with people. Now, being at home, like it's a dream. Like it is just truly like I don't know that I could go back. So that's a big
Well,
part.
I mean, just the removal of a commute on both ends of the day, right? I think that gives you so much more time with your kids and just so
Yeah.
much more peace of mind. And so I think I agree. Like I'm fully remote. I've been fully remote really since COVID, and
Yeah.
so that's been a huge improvement to my home life.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I mean, this isn't about parenting, but like I was thinking about people in their early career now and like being remote for that sort of like really critical time of like learning from others, learning about how you like to work, how you should grow in an organization. Like doing that remotely must be really hard.
Mm.
Like, it
It
must, I
is.
don't know, but it must
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, I've started I think 3 jobs remotely, and it's just harder to like not be around people and kind of get a vibe for the culture and stuff like
Get a
that.
vibe
But
culture, exactly. Like there's just something like you're missing like those whatever they're called, like water cooler moments when you're when you're at home. You're like on a call or you're off a call. Like there's no like in between.
yeah, totally. Okay, we're gonna move into the final segment called Emily's Advice Corner. So I'm gonna ask you for some advice on a few topics.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
So what's your biggest piece of advice for working parents?
My biggest piece of advice for working parents is enjoy the time away from your kids because it can be very sweet to have some time to yourself and then it makes the reunion all that sweeter, right?
Yeah.
So like be your fullest self at work and your fullest self at home.
What advice do you have for someone who's about to be a parent but still has a career they want to focus on?
Um, I mean, I think you shouldn't have to choose, I guess. I mean, depends on the industry, I suppose, but I think hopefully take the time to be with your kid for a little while and like really just sort of like learn about who you are as a parent. Um, and try not to rush that early time with your kid. And then yeah, don't stop, go back to it.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received is from my mother, who I'm sure will be listening to this. Hello,
Hi, mom.
at some point. Hi, mom. And the best advice is don't suffer future pain.
Mm,
Like,
good one.
at some point, something bad's going to happen, or it's going to be hard, or like whatever. But like, let's not let's not assume, or like let's not take that on right now if you don't have to.
Yeah, love it. What advice would you give to your former self?
Oh man, it's not a straight line, but it's the curves that um, really help you find the place you're supposed to go. How
Okay,
about you?
so
What's your former self? I want to know.
Yeah, you really put me on the spot a lot on
Sorry,
this
I
one.
know this is supposed to be like I don't know. It's a conversation.
No, I appreciate you asking me some of these questions. I mean, my biggest advice to my former self is something along the lines of like really get used to like letting go of what you can't control and just focus on what you can control, right? Like I think that to me is really great life advice that I wish I knew earlier.
Yes. And I guess an add-on for myself on that note would be really just like listen better. Like don't just say less. Just
Mm-hmm.
listen to other people.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
be open to listening a little bit more. So I think that I would add that.
That's a good one too. Okay, so a bunch of people are going to listen to this and they're going to download Joy Parenting Club and use it. What advice you have for Joy users?
Ask us everything. Don't hold back. Please really take advantage of the support that you'll have as a Joy parent. It is there for you in all moments. And if there's something that you feel like should be a part of the platform that's not, this is like a new thing and we want your feedback and I'd love to talk to you. So email me, emily@joy.co. And I would love to hear all the feedback, but enjoy.
Well, that leads me into my final question is where can people connect with you? Anything you'd like to share or promote?
Yes. Joy Parenting Club app is on both Android and iOS app stores. So please feel free to download it. There's a free trial before you commit to paying anything. So that is definitely something to take advantage of. Follow us on all the socials at Joy Parenting Club. And then email me, emily@joy.co if you want to chat, if you have an idea or, want to, say anything.
All right. Well, I'll be sure to link to all that in the show notes.
Thank you.
Emily Greenberg, ladies and gentlemen. Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been lovely.